ready. Let's do it. Welcome back to the Blood Prison Shakedown special edition. We're doing this one for special reasons. We're adding a little program to the event this year, Blood Prison, which is coming up in about a month and a half. About September 29th is when we open. I want to welcome in someone from the Ohio State Reformatory. We're doing this new thing called Beyond the Scare, and leading that, heading that up is going to be Ashleigh Ramey. How are we doing today, Ashleigh?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We're getting closer to Halloween, so I'm really good.
Spooky season.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you work during the daytime though, so you come out a couple times at night. So the event is more, you're like, whatever, it's all good because you're just working normal daytime stuff. But now we're going to add Beyond the Scare. Yeah,
and we're super excited about it. So usually my whole gig is the daytime historic tours. We're dealing in facts, we're dealing in history, architecture, all that super serious stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas you guys have your fun scare at night, completely different things. Yeah. So it's nice to get to work together on a project.
It is. It's great, and it's going to be fun. It's the first time we've done it. And the thing is, right after COVID, after 2020, I mentioned to him, I was like, a lot of people have asked if we do this kind of thing. It's got to be something we should look into. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that it's finally coming around to the point where we're going to do it.
Yeah, I was getting phone calls last year from people, specifically people who had sensitivities to light and sound. Yeah. And they would call and they would say, do you have a lights on option? And I said, no, not yet. So I'm glad you walked right into my office a couple months ago and you said, let's do it. Yeah. So we're ready to go.
I think it's going to be great. And just to kind of break it down a little bit, what it is, basically, you'll come in during the daytime hours, regular. What are the daytime hours for the reformatory?
11 to 4.
11 to 4. So you come in 11 to 4. You're going to have a tour option when you buy your tickets of Beyond the Scare. That's really is that going to be the only guided tour during October?
No, we have our standard fall guided tour, which is our comprehensive daytime historical tour.
Okay, so you got those two. This one will be a new addition. So if you're wanting to see like the sets that we build and all that good stuff without the actors jumping out at you, without the animatronics, getting in your face and everything, this is going to be the one you're going to want to check out because it's just going to be less intimidating for the people who aren't really into, getting scared. You know what I mean?
There's a whole group of folks in the world, too, who are interested in set building, set design.
Absolutely.
So we're going to pick your brain as we develop this program. We're going to get some cool facts about how you did, why you did, and we're going to tell the people all about it during the tour.
I'm excited for this. And a lot of people I know that I've already, mentioned to them about it, they're excited as well because my daughter, for instance, not my oldest daughter, she works on the tickets, but my daughter, Faith, who's, she's 17, but she doesn't like this kind of stuff. My wife does not like this kind of stuff. I did go through a haunt with my wife one time. It was hysterical. I laughed more at that because she was screaming the whole way, and we were just kind of laughing at her. No one's really scared. Yeah. But we were laughing at her because she was like, just every turn, like a strobe light would come on. She'd be like, ah, so she's really excited for this kind of thing. Not that she could come whenever, but she wants to see this kind of stuff. And I think she's just one of the demographic, her and my daughter, that would be like, this is going to be really cool just to see the artwork and how things are put together,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually one of those people who I don't dislike haunts. I love them. I love the adrenaline, but something about strobe lights gets me. I end up with a migraine at the end of the night. I'm super dizzy. So this is amazing for folks who may have those issues too. Right. Super excited to walk through it myself. You've been pretty secretive over the years with stay out of the haunt during the day. That's not what we're doing. So now I get to learn all about it and go through it too. Yeah,
well, and sometimes you got to be because, just, and this is on the tour as well as the regular Blood Prison tour. We like, look, no pictures, no photo, no video, don't do all that shit. And it's going to be the same way for Beyond the Scare. No photos, no videos, because the main thing is, there's things that we do the same every year. Like a certain scene or a certain area is going to be like, well, we'll try to change like, a percentage of the attraction. But some of it is the same, but the stuff that's new, we don't want it to get out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the reasoning by it. And I think that might be the only pushback you really get is because people are going to want to take photos. there's areas where are going to be like, oh, I want to take a picture of that.
Well, and we're intentionally keeping these groups small. We're going to max out on this tour at 15 folks per tour. Mm-hmm. So what that means is you have a tour guide in front, you have a docent in back. Both of them are going to be keeping their eyes out for phones. So make sure when you start this tour, your phone's in your pocket or your purse. It doesn't come out the whole time.
So we're going to start this tour on the 30th, which is the day after we open, September 30th.
Yes.
Didn't you say that before you even announced it, we sold tickets?
We did. So I have to build our ticket system, obviously, before we can announce things. So it's living there. It's there. We hadn't said a word. I put the widget on the webpage, and we started getting bookings the same day I launched the widget. So I
really think that this is going to be something that you'll sell out your tours. Especially only 15 people in a tour.
Yeah,
that's going to be great. I think you're gonna have a lot to. Or a lot of the bookings are going to come. You're going to have a lot that's going to be sold out. At least I hope. You know what I mean? And then hopefully they stay later and just check it out like in motion,
Well, and I think it's important to note, too, that even if tours do start selling out, we're open 7 days a week in October for the first time ever. Yeah. So as we get closer to that date, as I know what my staffing looks like, we're going to put more time slots on those days. So if you look at a particular day you want and it looks sold out right now or soon, we'll go ahead and add more as we can. So.
Well, and the building has always been really accessible to the point where, like, even Halloween tickets. So if you buy a Blood Prison ticket, that ticket's good for a year to come in and get a self-guided tour. So there's many things that you guys offer when it comes to that kind of stuff that, the building is accessible, and that's what people want to see.
Well, and it's important to us to get the history out to these folks, too, if they want to. Mm-hmm. I know not everybody who's coming to the haunted house is going to want to come and spend an hour and a half doing a historical tour. But the folks who do, you've paid for the haunted house. We want you to see the building, too. So please make time for that the day after, a month later. We'll do up to a year. So.
Yeah, and this is what Joe calls them. He calls them looky-loos. So when they're walking through the attraction, a lot of people do want to see the building. So they're like, well, we'll get tickets to Blood Prison and we'll just walk the building and check it out. But when they realize, I'm like, well, it's dark, they'll still stop and they're like in the cell blocks because we film, you know what I mean? And they're just like, they walk and look and the next thing you know, a group's caught up to them and everything. And you're like, come on, let's go. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I think it's going to be good for those kind of people that just kind of want to take the time to really see everything.
Oh, yeah. Years and years ago, I think it was probably 2007, before you were running the haunt here, I came through with a group of friends and trying to get your bearings at night when all the activities going on, the lights, the sounds, the actors. What I recall the building looking like from that night is absolutely nothing like what it looks like when you're actually here during the day. It's a completely different perception.
Well, and we would always do, not always, but when we started doing the daytime tours during the build, we would leave Central Guard open. So people could go and like kind of look down the cell blocks and what the hell's going on down there? And that's as far as we would kind of take it, So now that we're doing this, that's going to be even better, I think, anyways.
Well, when you're looking out into the cell blocks from Central Guard, you're up fairly high. You can kind of see what's going on, especially when there's some large element in place. Yeah. But you can't necessarily tell, what's that down there? What's that part of? It's kind of mysterious. People get a little glimpse of it, but you don't know what it's intended to be. Yeah, and I think, with the East Cell Block this year especially, we kind of, facelifted the one side of it. So it's going to be all new, all two brand new giant sets that we put in there. So that's going to be cool. And then to see that lights on is going to be, so we're doing the whole thing, right? The whole Blood Prison tour? Whole thing. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. It's I'm kind of excited for it, but at the same time, it's like, I'm never going to get, I don't need to do it. I know where everything is, but it's like, just to see people's reactions, because like I bring in guys like, Brian Dembski to paint for me. He's painted like the last 4 years. He's been my main guy that's been painting everything. And they're straight out of the movie world. You know what I mean? So that, because when I worked with him at a movie company, not a movie company, but a production company. Yeah. So knowing those guys that can really make those things look the way they do is just better for your haunt. So I was up at the haunt he's working at right now.
he's up at Nightmare Cleveland, and I was just like, dude, I told him what we're doing. I was like, you guys got to do that. I mean, these sets are amazing, you know, and they're not ready for that yet, but they're like, yeah, we want to, you know, because they just do so good. They make it look so legit, and that's kind of the key when you're doing this kind of thing, is to make sure that it looks the way it's supposed to. And I think people are going to see that, and, you know, the attention to detail, and really, you know, bond with it a little bit and be like, this could be kind of cool. We should check this out, you know?
Well, and even things like your build for the incarceration booth, your build for the incarceration booth, so much attention to detail was laid out. It looked just like the West cell block. Yeah. I mean, exactly. It looked like you picked up 4 of the cells and took them out to the yard. Yeah. It was crazy. So whenever things can look as good in the daylight as they do at night, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah. And most people, I don't want to say most people, but a lot of people, this is good enough and that's good enough. And it's like, no, you got to look at it like, the lights are on just like in here, so there's not a flaw, you know, even though I still see the flaws, but that's what you want. And the guys, like my build crew, like when I talk to them, so I got like Anthony and Greg and Country, when we were starting all that stuff, and Carl, can't forget about Carl, that was the idea, was to let's just bring the prison outside. You know what I mean? And they knocked it out of the park. I mean, they built it, and it was, I'm like, holy shit, that looks great. And Brian came in and just, you know, did his thing on it and just sealed the deal, and it was perfect. And we got so many people out there that was just like, what the hell is that? You know? I didn't know ink. I thought ink would be a little like, this is a lot bigger than the one last year. But they didn't. They were cool with it. They loved it.
They didn't, I'm assuming they didn't give you any kind of like height limit, so as long as you didn't take up more than your ground footprint, why not?
Do I have a footprint?
I don't know, do you?
I don't know. We did go a little bit bigger on our footprint than we normally do, but I'm like, dude, the guy next to us was 15 feet away.
Oh yeah.
So we went an extra like 4 feet, you know what I mean? But it had to be big.
Yeah.
You know, so that was cool. So Ashleigh, how long have you worked at OSR?
I'm just about 2.5 years.
That's so weird, because I just feel like I've known you so much longer than that. Because when they hired you, like Dan especially was just like, we got someone that's really going to take us to the next level. And I'm like, whatever. You know, come on, dude. He's like, no, seriously, we've been looking for someone like her. And it just seems like longer because you've done such a great job with the programming here.
Thank you. Yeah. It feels like this was the exact right place for me. It feels to me like I've been here so much longer than 2.5 years. And I'm not saying that from a standpoint of, oh, it's been a torturous 2.5 years. I'm saying it from a standpoint
I'm sure it has its moments.
Anytime you're working with a building like this, there's going to be moments. Things break, things go wrong. But it was just a situation where I got in, they let me hit the ground running. You know what our administration is like here. If the idea is good, if you've got a solid plan, if it's going to be safe for our guests, they say go do it. Yeah. So hit the ground running, was able to just take off. Yeah. And it's been amazing.
So let's get into just so, I mean, people know that this is going to be a legit tour. I mean, we're going to do a script for it. We're going to have the tour guides trained up for it and everything. A little bit of your background. So where were you? You're not from Mansfield.
No.
Where are you from?
I grew up in a tiny town called Oak Harbor. It's right off of Lake Erie by Sandusky. Yeah. Yep. And then I spent 12 years in Columbus, went to OSU for college, spent a little too long in college, got a couple degrees there. And then I was in event planning for 20 years, event planning and kind of that hospitality world. And once COVID hit, my job was taken away. Yeah. Sat home unemployed for a year, had a great time.
Yeah.
But then this
by the pool.
Yeah, by the pool. But then this job posted up and I saw it and I said, I can do that job. Yeah. So I applied and I think they had me in the next day for an interview.
Well, let's go back to the COVID thing, and I've bitched about this quite a bit. Since you went, did you go to school for event planning?
I did. Hospitality management and business.
Okay. So that's amazing, because this is what this is. I mean, it's basically an event every day of the week.
Every day.
I mean, it really is. So to do that, to get someone like you in here is like what they needed. Events, I got so, and you gotta feel me on this one at least a little, as from one event planner to another. When COVID hit and everyone's like, we're in this together, dude, I just had my middle finger at them. I'm like, no, we're not. Because we're the ones really feeling it. Haunted attractions, live events, any kind of event where you require a group of people for it to be successful, they basically just, like you said, you're out of work for a year.
Most of what I did have an independent business on the side. So I did some weddings, some social things, but the vast majority of what I did was corporate world.
Yeah.
Well, all these companies were sending their workers home. They weren't having meetings. They weren't getting together for any reason.
Yeah.
My whole conference center I was working at the time said, nope, we're closed. And so that was that.
Yeah.
And they had not even reopened when I interviewed here. I was still in the cycle of, well, they're going to reopen sometime. Well, I don't know when. I can't stay at home any longer.
Oh, man,
so,
I was dying.
Yeah.
I was dying. My dog and myself had never gotten more exercise.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were just constantly walking everywhere, all over town, just like, let's go for a walk. And because I'm like, I can't sit in the house. Can't do it.
My in the house is a little bit different because I can wander out to the backyard and float around in the pool for an hour, and it's
right.
great.
Which I hear you do frequently.
I do that frequently, yes. Stressful day, right out to the pool. Just walk in the back door, into the pool. But it was one of those situations where I'm not good at being idle, which, again, makes this the perfect place for me to be because we're never idle here. But I needed to get back out in the world, get out there, and start something again.
Yeah. Yeah, doing what we do is there's a lyric in one of my favorite Beastie Boys songs. It says, my job's not a job, it's a damn good time. And I relate to that.
Yes.
Because I have such fun doing this. I mean, I would be here, like my early days here, like I'd be the last one out a lot because I would just sit in that office and just keep working.
Yeah.
And just trying to make the event better. Because it's just, when you think about it, what you're doing, it's like, man, it's like I tell my crew all the time, because like my crew, they get stressed out and they're just like, oh, because we put deadlines on them and everything. And I'm like, listen, we're not curing cancer here, guys. We're building a haunted house.
Yeah.
So this is cool. Let's just have fun with it. I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And events are like parties to me.
They are.
And it's like, why not get paid to just throw a big party? I mean, granted, people are just walking around touring, but still, it's not sitting at a desk and constantly looking at numbers, or not that I'm ragging on those kind of people. It's just not for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm assuming not for you either, to just kind of do the same mundane type of thing. There's always something new that flies into this industry.
Well, and there's always, no day is just like the day before.
Yeah.
I may come into the office with a plan in my mind of what I'm going to get done that day.
Yeah.
And then 3 different situations pop up. It's exciting for me.
Yep.
I can't sit there. I could not be a person who sat there and did data entry all day.
Oh, man.
The world needs those people.
Absolutely.
But I need movement, activity, guests, people to make happy. I know it sounds weird. People are coming to a prison and I want to make them happy. But I really do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting when you get the people that have come in that have done time here. Mm-hmm. And like that happened to me in early days. It's been a while, but the one guy's like, hey, can you just take me to the East Cell Block? And I'm like, I'm the haunt guy. I'm like, sure, I'll take you there, because I'm not a tour guide.
Yeah.
I refer to you guys, to one of you. I'm like, yeah, they can help you. Yeah, I'll take you over there. And it's like right through here. And he's like, yeah, this is where I stayed. And I was like, what do you mean? He was just like, I did time here. Oh.
Yeah.
So then I got interested. So then I kind of started, asking questions and everything. And I took him up to his cell because he was up on like the 4th tier maybe. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. Because I have keys to everything. So I open the door. Yeah. There you go. That's what makes it interesting about more than just the Halloween stuff and incarceration, the daily activities, because you might run into one of those,
Oh, yeah. That's a normal occurrence for myself and the tour team. I remember I was sitting out by the gate. I was actually scaring away prom photography. And this gentleman drove up in a truck with his son and his granddaughter. And he pulled up to me and I said, oh, hey, are you here for a daytime tour? You can go on in. Like, we're still selling tickets. And he looks at me and he goes, no, I don't think I'm going to. And I said, okay, well, we're open tomorrow too. I wasn't getting what he was getting at.
Yeah.
And he got a little bit misty and he said, I stayed here for months and I wanted to come back, but I don't think I'm ready to go in.
Yeah.
And I said, that's okay. You don't need to. If you want to pull in the parking lot and just look for a minute, I'm fine with that. Go ahead and go in. And he goes, well, I got to take my granddaughter to her softball game. I might be back. So he headed off. 20 minutes later, the truck comes rolling back around and he goes, I'm going to do it. I'm never in town. I have to do it. And I said, okay, go on in. And I felt for this guy. He was obviously very emotionally upset by the situation, but I feel like that was probably bucket list for him. Like he needed to come back and see it and have that closure. So I said, go tell the front desk girls that Ashleigh said your ticket's free and head on in.
Yeah.
So I got in. It always touches me when I see folks who come back and need to have that piece of closure and do that again. It happens more often than you would think it would.
Yeah. Well, you guys are up there all the time, so I don't see it nearly as much as you guys. But it is another interesting thing about working in this building itself, because you can, for Halloween or whatever, the Shawshank Hustle, which we just did, even incarceration, this building is what makes the events unique. It's a prison. Who would have thought that, we were going to do a music fest and a haunted house? A haunted house you can kind of see.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But a music festival or a 7K run and all the other stuff that goes on here, you just don't see that coming, because that's not what this place was made to do.
No, and you get this unique backdrop that you're not going to find anywhere else.
Right.
Along with that, obviously, comes problems. This building was never intended to have people moving freely through it. It was a prison.
Yeah.
So when we see things like incarceration in the haunted house come through, we're spending all of our time worrying about, okay, where's the walking path going? Is the fire marshal okay with it? How many people can we have? Is this too many people? It's constant because this building wasn't intended for that kind of thing.
And just the headaches, just like, because, and you think you have it licked every year, especially at Inc. Me and you sit and talk, all right, so we got to get them to the back. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So they come in here and we're like, there's one way to the back of the building. That's it. There's one way.
Yep.
So you've got to get people back, which is right past the studio hallway here. It's right past here. And that's where also the people are coming out.
Yep.
And you're talking a prison hallway, so it is not code. You know what I mean? It's not made for, two-way traffic.
No, and I'm not a huge person, but the walls are not that far away from my shoulders walking down that hallway.
Yeah.
And
the doorways are even...
Yeah,
so then you get to the doorways and you're like, okay, well, I'm like...
Just turn to the side a little bit.
Dumping oil on me. Okay. That was a pretty visual one.
Chasing Vic through the hallway like a greased pig.
Exactly,
it's fine.
Yeah. But it's one of those, but again, that's just one of the things that keeps it interesting and, how are we going to solve this problem? And I think we did good this year at Inc., but there's just always something else that comes up with it. But I love those kind of, like, if these are the problems,
it's
we're
fine.
Good. Yeah.
We'll work it out.
Absolutely. So, what got you into doing this? What made you think, I want to be an event planner or run this business? Was there something particular that happened to you?
Not necessarily. I didn't want to go home after my freshman year of college.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay in Columbus. So I found a job working summer conference housing. It's where students on campus just work and do all the cheerleading conferences, the football conferences, like the high school kids coming in for conferences. Yeah. They do their housing and their food and their meeting room planning, all that stuff. And I dipped my toe in that and I said, I'm actually good at this.
Yeah.
And I had planned to be a music teacher. I was in college for music education and bassoon performance. And I ended up saying, nope, hospitality management and business.
That is funny. I wonder how many people, what the percentage is of people that go to college anywhere, not just Ohio State or around here, but anywhere, that says, I'm going for teaching, or I'm going for sports medicine, or I'm going for whatever. And then their first year in, they're like, yeah, I think I'm going to change to this.
Think about when you were 18.
Yeah.
How much of what you were doing then are you still doing now? How much of that are you still interested in? It's kind of silly sending 18-year-olds to college when it's so expensive and going, okay, you're going to pick right now what you're doing, and that's what you're going to do. Like, thinking they're not going to go out in the world and have new experiences and want to do different things.
Yeah. I went to college... let me rephrase. I went to college campuses.
I went to parties on campus.
See, my friends went to college, and I was just like, what's going on? Framby Fest. Yeah, let's go.
Why not?
Let's do it, So we'd go down there for that, and Lane Street, my buddies lived on Lane, so there was big parties down there. Had another buddy of mine in Athens, Ohio, so we go to Athens for Halloween. Yep. Which, if you've ever been to Athens for Halloween, I'm telling you what, that's the place to be.
It's crazy.
Good things about college, the parties.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I went to my fair share of parties, but
I'm sure
I was also in the world of band nerd. So a lot of my time, at least the first couple of years, was spent practicing and doing all that before I figured out I wanted to change my major.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it was high school. Now, believe it or not, because I'm a guy and I'm still immature. My age is irrelevant. Okay, age is irrelevant to men. Okay, once we hit about 15, that's kind of a level off for us. Ceiling. For most of us. Yeah, I'm one of those. I was voted, because everyone's like, you're voted this for your class, and you get I don't know if you did that still.
Oh, yeah.
I was voted, me and this girl named Erin Schroll, great friend of mine, graduated together. We were voted class partiers. We were the class partiers. And I thought to myself, I was like, wow. And it's not like you try to do that. And I remember thinking, I'm like, what? That's kind of weird. Okay. Now, I had a lot of parties in high school. Yeah. Hence the, the name for that. But that's kind of where I thought, you know what? This is what I got to do. So my original goals coming out was, I'd been to haunted attractions, but I didn't think to myself, I'm going to run a haunted attraction one day. It just kind of evolved.
Yeah.
I was going to own a bar. That's what I wanted to do because I was a heavy drinker, which would go perfect, right? I just sit in the bar all day and get wasted.
Yeah.
But I like to party. I loved parties. I loved having parties. I loved going to parties. I love just hanging out. It doesn't have to be anything special. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what got me on the path. I ended up doing radio. Radio led to the movie thing, and that led to here, basically. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't do the college route. I kind of just went with the more, like you said, life experience way. You know what I mean?
And there's nothing wrong with either option. You got to know what's right for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think most of the folks who work here didn't go to college, or if they did, they didn't complete it. And that's perfectly fine.
Paul.
I was not calling out Paul, not in any way, shape, or form. But I was having a conversation with one of my tour guides. Yeah. We're going to have a position opening here soon, basically as my program assistant.
Yes.
And he looked at me and he said, do you need a degree? Because I only have an associate's. Like, I didn't go to college. And you could tell he was a little concerned about that. I'm like, it's okay, my man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Speaking of which, congratulations, by the way. You are now the program director.
Yes.
Now, what were you before? What was your title before that?
I was the program manager. So previously, all I was in charge of was the tour program and all the tour guides and the ticket desk.
Right.
Now that some things here are changing and we're going to be opening some escape rooms, some Airbnbs, all of those programs are actually falling under me at a higher level now, and then I'm going to get some coordinators for the day-to-day.
Can we talk about that?
I haven't been told no.
Okay, perfect. This is a different part of the prison, Ashleigh. Oh, yeah. No rules apply here.
What happens in my office is totally different from what happens back here.
Exactly.
But no, I was going to bring that up at some point if you didn't. The fact that you and I had our different worlds, in the middle of the daytime, if a guest runs out of here crying, screaming, peeing their pants, that's really bad for me.
Right.
But if they do it at night, that's really good for you.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Our programs are just polar opposites. Yeah. So getting to work on this project and the Airbnbs together, we've got some good, fun things coming up.
Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. So you guys are opening, it's not right now, but in the near future, there'll be 4 Airbnbs available.
Yes.
Right across the street from this iconic building, where you can go and stay there. And they're kind of Shawshank in a couple of them, I think.
Yeah, we did one in a 1940s theme. So if any of our listeners know what 1940s houses looked like, crazy kind of wallpaper, mismatchy, kitschy decor. It looks really, really cool. I was just over there last week. And then the other 3 houses are going to be very much reformatory and Shawshank themed.
Yeah. That's going to be really interesting, and I think that's going to go kind of cool, especially during Halloween and incarceration.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because having a house right across the street, you don't got to pay for parking.
Nope.
You know what I mean? And you can just walk. You can drink as much as you want and just walk right back to your,
And the one house is going to have a front porch that literally faces the
perfect
stage. So if you're feeling tired that day, I don't know if you ever went to music festivals, but I used to go to them regularly.
Oh, yeah.
The next day you've had 18 beers the day before, you've been in the sun all day, you're exhausted. If you don't want to leave your property, you're still going to be able to see that stage from one of the houses. So I think that's pretty cool.
You hear that?
I do.
Is that you, Sarah? No. What the hell was that? Oh, that's the fun part about being in this building is there's always restoration going on. There's always stuff being done. So if you hear noises in the background, everyone's going to say, "Oh, it's a ghost." No, it's not.
It's the restoration crew drilling, your crew doing something in the basement. Yeah.
Wood shop is right over here. Then we got construction in the basement going on. I just heard that. I was like, well, Rye, was that you?
Oh, God.
But again, more of the fun that we have here. So that's going to be cool when the Airbnbs, when that gets going.
Yes.
And then we have escape rooms, which we really haven't really talked about because they're under construction right now.
Yes.
And that's going to be a year-round thing. Mm-hmm. And eventually, this is funny, and I'm gonna totally rip on Paul for this one. I know he's your boss and everything, but I'm just gonna drill into him.
Isn't he your boss too?
Well, I mean, whatever. Yes and no. I mean, anyways, I had him on here. He knows the score. No, he. So when I first started here, it obviously was night and day, the haunt wise. Okay. Mm-hmm. From the first year, if you were here in 2016 when I ran it for Robert Kurtzman, even 2017 in my first year to now, you'd be like, oh man, this is way different. I said not really from day one, but early on I told him, I was like, look man, the things that we need to do here, like escape rooms, we really need to have those. Someone at our level needs that, that'd be something that would be cool. So we bought this building. It was like a modular type of building because we didn't want to do them inside. But then there was like building and code issues that, kind of prevent. We parked the thing too close to the building and then we had to move it and then we had to put this deck all the way around it and electrical stuff. It was all this thing. And then the modular building itself was not Ohio code because it was built somewhere. There was just all these problems that we didn't foresee. So it kind of went away. And we just, and I was just like, all right, whatever, and I'm like, it is what it is. Well, then it was probably over the winter, I think. I went up to your office for something. I don't remember what it was. And Paul was in there, and I'm pretty sure you were in there, Rita, and there was a bunch of them. And I was like, all right. And I started walking. I left your office, and I'm walking back to my office, and I'm walking down the hallway, and I turn around, and I look, and Paul and Rita, and, there's a few other people behind me, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then I walk into the mail room, and then you all walked into the mail room, and then I get to my door, and I'm kind of looking over. I'm like, you guys coming in? And Paul's like, yeah, we're coming in. I was like, oh, okay. So I open the door, and what's going on? We want to do escape rooms. And I'm just like, of course you do. What are we doing this time? And that's kind of when I got, involved. But being involved in the design and what it's going to be is kind of where I'm, living. But I think it's going to be really cool. We're going to put them up on the 3rd floor. Mm-hmm. So we have elevators in the building now.
Yep. We have elevators that can get people right up to 3.
Take you up there. You don't got to do all the steps. And then we'll have 2 escape rooms. One is our first ones are going to be the like a laboratory setting, kind of like what was that one movie?
Resident Evil.
Yes, like a Resident Evil / what was that zombie movie with Will Smith? Kind of that, like an outbreak. Oh, yeah. Like a disease outbreak that's turning people. It's kind of that themed. We're going to do another one that's a cabin in the woods, which not like a Jason Friday the 13th cabin in the woods, more of like an Evil Dead cabin in the woods because it's got that paranormal aspect to it.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to be cool. And of course, the big one across the way is going to be a Shawshank themed escape room, which is going to be really cool because we get to incorporate that movie into that escape room, which is really going to make the build and the design on that just amazing.
Yes, and it's gonna suit the building.
Yes.
We have to walk that fine line between what can we do here that's still paying the appropriate amount of respect to the building, sure, and what can we do here that's just flat out fun.
Yeah.
So we're kind of combining both. The Shawshank rooms are going to be very reformatory-like because Shawshank was in the reformatory. It's going to look the way it's supposed to look.
For certain.
It'll be good. But no, you and I had gone to Trans World along with a bunch of other people in February. And we took a look at the escape room trailers, the options that they had there. Yeah. We left there and I just had this feeling. I was like, they're okay, but I'd rather be in the building.
Yeah.
So we got back and Paul had asked me what I thought about the escape rooms. And I said, I mean, the trailers were okay, but wouldn't it be way better if they were in the building? And then I got kind of obnoxious about it. Like that's kind of my theme. Like if I want something. Yeah. And so I'm glad we finally landed on in the building. I think it's going to be really awesome.
Well, in the early day when we first started talking about it, they didn't want to take away from the building for tour reasons, paranormal reasons, things like that. But we've kind of been able to work around that and make it work within the building, which I think is great because you can't really go in the cell blocks and do anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We wanted to do not an airsoft thing, but like a laser tag thing one time. We kind of did, and it was okay. It wasn't like what I wanted. They just wanted to go through the haunted house the whole time. It's like, no, you ain't going in there.
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? But there's just so many different ideas that comes with this place that you could do that could be great because there's not a lot of places like this here, especially in Mansfield, let alone Ohio, and being right between Columbus and Cleveland is just a benefit, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that the escape rooms are going to be something like everybody I've talked to is ready for that shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And right now, I'm letting you guys, the experts, the escape room design crew, the set builders, all that handle it, and then once we're ready to go, that'll be...
Well, and it's just, you know, you went to Trans World, so you've seen how that is not just Halloween. I mean, there's Halloween, escape rooms, and now there's Christmas. Mm-hmm. So it's really more than just Halloween trade show, which is kind of how it started.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I think that we should go back again.
Absolutely.
It'll be fun.
I had a blast down there.
What was that you guys were going to do that got nixed? Hopefully that doesn't happen. It was the vampire...
Yeah, the vampire circus. The acrobatics kind of twisted Cirque du Soleil. I wanted to see that desperately. And I guess this is the second or third time it's canceled. They were flying in from, I don't know, Lithuania or Bosnia.
Something, yeah.
It was somewhere really far away where they couldn't get their visas. Things weren't straightened out and the whole show was canceled.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah.
Because Trans World, there's so many cool things that go on there. Did you go to the City Museum?
I did.
Was that cool?
That was amazing. So I felt like literally a kid. I felt like a kid with a beer in my hand, but I still felt like a kid.
Like a kid, yeah.
Climbing on all these museum exhibits and up tunnels and down slides, and we're in a cave and then we're not in a cave, and there's... It was bananas.
And then you're like, where the hell am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, how the hell did I get here? And how do I get out?
Well, you know, Rita's very little. I kept losing her.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we needed like a Rita leash, like those little bungee leashes people
Rita
put their
does
kids
need a
on.
leash. I agree. You just shorten that leash up a little bit.
So, yeah, but that was one of the coolest places I've ever been.
So working here, you know, like you kind of experienced it at Inc. I experience it every year at Halloween. Actually, it's not so bad anymore. When I go to that city museum, I think to myself, I'm like, how in the world did you get approval for this?
Some of it to me seems very dangerous.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a huge person, but I climbed up to the top of the building to this one slide that goes down like 4 levels on the inside, and you have to climb up this little cagey thing to get to it.
Yeah.
And I'm nearly stuck in the cage, and I'm going, what happens when someone much larger than me tries to get up here? Do they just like go, no, sir, like you can't go up there?
No, not really.
They just let you try. Okay.
Yeah, they just let you in there. Squeeze, think thin.
I had like bruises on my knees from climbing through things. It was crazy.
There's a part of that where you can climb on stuff on the outside of the building.
Yes.
So there's like the plane. Did you go in there?
No, we went in February. The wind was like 40 miles an hour and it was freezing. It was nighttime. Right. I opened the door to the outside, went absolutely not, and turned around and walked back inside. So
that is nuts. We did that. And I am a huge person. So when I got on that thing, I'm telling you what, it was like, holy shit. So we got on this plane, right? And then once you get on this plane, there's like a steel tunnel that's just these steel bars. You know, they're just like quarter round stock. It's all they are, and they're all welded together. And you got to crawl through that from the plane back to the building.
Oh, God.
And you're looking down through it, and it's just like, you know,
Oh, the street below you?
Yeah, you're like 200 feet to dying, but it's all steel, so it's not going to break, but it's like, it just freaks you out. Well, then the guy that was with me on the crew, he's ahead of me. So he goes, and then I go, and then, of course, like 2 or 3 people behind me who we don't know who they are, just other people from other haunts, come behind me. So I'm crawling up this thing. Well, he gets to the top. It arches like this. So he gets to the top, and he's like, oh. Well, he pulls his legs up, spins around, and starts going down. I can't do that. I can't do it. So I like get up there, and I'm just like, oh, shit. So I'm like, oh, man. And I turn around, and I look back, and there's like 3 people. I'm like, son of a bitch. Okay. So I basically had to go head first back to the building, and I had to turn around, and I'm like basically holding on like this and lowering myself.
Oh, yeah.
And me and him went back to back. And he kind of like lowered me down in there, and he was dying the whole time because he just like turned around. I'm like, you son of a bitch, I can't do that.
Well, we're in St. Louis goofing around.
Oh yeah.
And Paul was supposed to go with us, and he had to bail at the last minute.
Yeah.
So we're there, and we're in City Museum, and Rita, Jasmine, and I find the world's biggest underpants. So we take a picture of the 3 of us in front of the world's biggest underpants.
Yeah.
I send a text to Paul, and I'm like, we found them, the world's biggest underwear. And I just get a text back that's like, what are you guys doing?
Paul's like, what are you doing, and where'd you get my underwear?
Oh, God.
He's never going to watch this. It's all good.
Probably not. It's fine.
He won't get this far into it. But that is the world of Halloween that you're now kind of even more dipping your toe in. So you've went to Trans World.
Yeah.
You're going to do somewhat of a Halloween tour, behind the scenes, lights on type of thing, which, again, is going to be really cool. So I think we need to just keep expanding on that. Escape rooms. Now the Airbnbs, the Halloween, I mean, it's just stuff that we can keep moving on,
Oh, yeah. Well, and on top of the music background, I have a theater background. I
was
always in the thespian club in high school, did all the stage management, did set design, set development. This is not completely out of left field for me.
You should come and guest act a night or two.
Maybe. If you can promise to put me somewhere with no strobe lights, which I know is going to be a problem.
Not really.
You don't think?
Yeah, we know where all the strobe light areas are. I can keep you out of there. You should come and just, let's work your chops out a little bit and see how you do.
I have actually acted in a haunted house before.
All right, let's hear it.
So in high school, we took over the entire, mind you, I came from a small town.
Oak Harbor.
We took over the entire second floor of the grocery store and turned the whole second floor into a haunted house, along with our theater director and the whole club. So I was typically in the cemetery. I was a murdered bride. Now, mind you, the best part of this is I got to wear my mom's actual wedding dress that she wore to get married to my dad. They were divorced by then.
Oh, so
she's like, destroy it. So I have this wedding dress on. I'm covered in fake blood. Actually, my boyfriend at the time was the murderer. And he's chasing me around with an axe and a chainsaw. And it was great. It was really good.
It's a lot of fun. You said high school, so that was up on the lake where you went?
Yeah.
Okay, what was it called?
I don't know if I don't think it had a name. I think it was just Oak Harbor High School Thespian Club Presents Haunted House.
So you just kind of did it just for you guys to have a little fun with? And for the Thespian Club or whatnot?
It was our fundraiser.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
People paid to get in, and then we used that for the rest of the year.
There's a lot more of those around than you think. I've talked to a lot of people that said, I started this one in my garage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Where? Oh, it was up in Akron, and we, just my neighborhood people would come, and we would just use the money we made, or if they even charged.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
When I lived in Columbus, I lived in Grove City, a little south of Columbus, for a few years. And our neighbors at the time ran like a haunted house. Like they put up false walls through their front yard and into their garage, and like had fog machines and spooky scenes and all this. And the neighborhood kids, when they came to trick or treat, could just go through the haunted house.
Very cool.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that's been something that's going on for a long time. So the fact that you can do it at that level and at this level just shows that, people want to do it and people like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a lot of fun. And if you go to a haunted house, let's say a major haunted attraction in 1995 compared to now, you could see how far it has come, even since the 90s.
Yeah.
It's really made a mark. And I love how, I've said this before, I love how Halloween is now encroaching on other holidays.
It is.
We are like encroaching onto Christmas.
Yes.
Because we do a Christmas show here. We do 2 days in December to retheme the haunt, make it a Krampus horror Christmas type of situation. We don't do this, but a lot of other haunts do. St. Valentine's Day massacre,
Bloody Massacre,
it's type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Or I remember one called Love Bites. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can get a little funny with those, but it also brings in a different crowd of people.
Yeah.
I mean, your Halloween people are still there, but other people are like, oh, this would be kind of cool. St. Patrick's Day. They're thinking of every reason to open your haunt now.
It makes business sense.
Yeah.
If you have this building and this haunt and the structure year round, you've still got to pay the bills even when it's not October.
Yeah.
So are you going to let it sit empty all year long? It's a little different for us here because we're running tours year round no matter what.
Right.
But for other places that don't have that year round source of income, it makes sense.
They do a thing now. A lot of them are calling it halfway to Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
So they open up for a weekend in May because that's halfway to Halloween. And then they just run a weekend. You know, we've talked about doing that, but it's like with the tours and the build that we do, we figured it was, so we just do the Christmas and incarceration, which is plenty.
Yeah.
As you well know.
Keeps us busy.
So when you first came here, you had to have just been like, holy shit, incarceration, this is nuts.
One of my favorite stories, and Dan tells this story, I had been here for about 5 months when the first incarceration hit. It was in September because we were making up for COVID delays and weird things.
Yes, I remember that year.
So I had felt a little odd my first few months here. You know, the senior admin team was largely kind of staying away from me. We weren't like super social, having a good time yet. And I was thinking in my head, well, maybe they don't like me. Like, I don't know. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It was just weird. And end of first night, I go to the bathroom, change out of my work clothes, put on shorts and a tank top. I'm up in the second floor hallway, just goofing around with some people, kind of getting away from the crowd and being somewhere quiet. Paul comes walking through the hallway and he goes, holy shit, you have tattoos. And I said, I do? And he goes, oh, thank God. He goes, you were in here every day in a suit coat, and I kept thinking you were this like ultra serious person that we couldn't talk to and couldn't be ourselves around. And I was like, I'm not that serious.
Right.
It was just a situation where, you know, I was all wrapped up in the fact that I do have to present myself professionally.
Sure, yeah.
And then
Time and place.
Yeah.
So you got a tattoo at incarceration the one year, didn't you?
I did last year.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was up there getting tattooed and I've got an ink radio in one ear, the reformatory radio in the other. My cell phone is blowing up. This lady's just tattooing my back and I'm answering radio calls left and right.
Awesome.
It was chaos. After it was done, I looked at the team and I said, okay, I'm not doing that again. That was really hard.
Yeah.
But it was also really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, how many places are you going to work where you can be like, hey, I'm going to go on my lunch break and go get a tattoo?
Exactly.
So,
and that's what makes here incarceration. If you look at that, I love incarceration because it's a promotional dream for me. This year we got really lucky, of course, as you well know, because you were in on it with us.
Yeah.
Corey Taylor from Slipknot came through the haunted attraction, came through Blood Prison. He was, they were the Sunday night headliner. And then Phil Anselmo from Pantera came through, and you know I was trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
Was dying to make that happen. Did I ever tell you how that actually happened?
No.
So they're doing this Pantera celebration thing where it's, you know, they got Zakk Wylde from Black Label Society and Charlie Benante from Anthrax to take the place of Diamond Vince and the band because they're passed on. And they're doing the celebration of Pantera with the original singer and bass player. So they're doing this tour, right? Zakk Wylde was here the previous year with Black Label Society at Inc.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? His tour manager, I think it's his tour manager. I'm not sure if that's who her official position, but I think it's his tour manager. Her name's Talina, really nice lady, was here and came through Blood Prison the previous year. So when Zakk jumped onto the Pantera thing, she's here again. And she knew that the singer used to own a haunted house down in New Orleans called the House of Shock, which is legendary. Not because he owned it, but because, you know, it was just a legendary haunt down there. And she was like, you know, Phil would really love this. She goes, we had such a good time. He would really dig this. So I said, listen, I'm going to be honest. I told Ashleigh straight up, I go, if Pantera wants to tour this building, I really need to be on that tour. Because that's my favorite band of all time.
Well, and I had remembered from the year before, I had just gotten done touring Black Label Society, and we were chatting in the hallway, and I was like, yeah, Black Label Society just left. I gave him a tour, and you were like, you what?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to tell you that.
Gotta run this by me. But I told you that, and you're like, you and I will give that tour if that happens. Like, sweet, okay. So then when we did the Corey Taylor thing, the security guys come in because they wanted to get the layout and everything, and so the security guy comes in, and I'm kind of bullshitting with him, and I was like, working in my little how can we get Phil from Pantera to come in here? I was like, so yeah, I'm surprised maybe Phil Anselmo wouldn't want to do it because he used to own a I just kind of snuck it in there a little bit, and he's like that's actually that's valid. He goes, I'm gonna talk to his security. I know his security guy. And I was like, yeah. I said, let me know. I said, if Phil wants to come in or anybody in the Pantera crew wants to come in, red carpet, you know what I mean? No problem. He's like, all right. So I did that. Well, this girl who's Zakk Wylde's tour manager or someone on his tour crew, like she already talked to Phil and she's like, this next place we're going's got a haunted house. Do you want to check it out? And he's like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm sitting there doing all these things, trying to make this happen. It was already going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was really cool. And then when he came in, it was just like, me, I tried not to fan out too much, but it was just a great experience, to have Phil Anselmo, Corey Taylor. And Corey Taylor did his thing for his charity, the Taylor Foundation. So that was all for, they did a donation. Whoever makes the best donation gets to come in and do a tour in Blood Prison with Corey Taylor of Slipknot. So the whole situation was just amazing. And they were both top quality guys. You always hear rumors like, they're not nice. They were both amazing.
Oh, yeah. Everything went so smoothly. Yeah. The whole week leading up to it, everyone in the building is going, do you have a plan? Do you know the entrance and exit? Do you know the path they're taking? Are you shutting it down? I'm like, guys, Vic and I have this. Like, we talked to Dan. It's all planned out. We're good. And everything flowed perfectly. It was perfect.
And I got to throw a shout out to my crew, especially. Like, all the actors in Blood Prison, they did great. And they were professional. Yeah, I mean, we told them, it was like, look, this is not a get a photo type of situation. You got to do your thing and your haunt in your spot, in your scene. And they all did it, and they did great. And, of course, there's this kind of viral video of Corey Taylor getting scared in solitary by my one guy, Jeffrey, who jumped out of the cell and got a good scare on him. So they did amazingly, and it worked perfect. So hopefully more of that stuff keeps happening.
Well, and at the end of that tour, I don't know if you saw my face when Corey Taylor asked where the closest restroom was.
Yeah.
Because I knew we were about to head into the bullpen where my entire staff was eating.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had probably threatened them enough that they would behave.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I went, oh, God. Like, I was terrified that we were going to go in there and they were going to go fangirl. And it was, we're trying to present a professional appearance, folks, but they all just sat there and ate their dinner. Like, nothing was happening.
Yep. Well, and that was great. That was great, you know, and that was really, because there was a couple situations where we had Dog the Bounty Hunter come in one time, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, Joe Russo, who directed, I mean, I'm not name dropping, but like these guys came in, so you got to worry about people, kind of not being what they're supposed to. They want to be just like the next guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? So when you can make it like that, that's good for them. They have a good time and everything works out. I mean, we all got photos with them and everything, so it worked out well. Yeah.
Everything could not have gone better that weekend. And honestly, Vic, it touched my heart. You were so excited you gave me a hug. And you were not a hugger.
I know.
So it was great.
Well, it's funny you said that, because when they made it sound, not with Phil so much, but with Corey, they made it sound like this is like official. Make sure this happens. Make sure this happens. Where I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure, and I don't even know if he even noticed. I don't know if they just did, like, if that came from him, saying, hey, I'm not going to do this unless this is all, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think they just did that because, like, both of them just came in. They just walked right in and they're like, what's up?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? They were not even worried about that. But when we went to Sonic Temple, I met, her name's Rita Haney. She was the guitar player from Pantera's girlfriend. Okay. When he died. Okay. I met her there on it was like a total accident. And I did the same thing to her that I did to you. So I'm sitting there and the stars aligned, I guess you could say, because I wore my Dimebag shirt. Okay. Yeah. And it's an odd situation because we were in Columbus. Dimebag was killed in Columbus. Yep. Okay. So it's a very odd situation, and I saw the Dimebag hardware tent was there, and I went there and I bought a shirt. You know what I mean? Paul actually pointed it out, and I was like, oh yeah. So I went over there and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I remember seeing the Dime from Hell guitar. It's the lightning bolt guitar. And I remember looking at that going, how the hell did they get that? Because I studied that guitar. I looked at that and I was like, that is probably the most stage used guitar ever.
Yeah.
In that band. So I'm like, what the hell's, how did you guys get this? You know? Well, it turns out she was there and they were here. Right. So I'm backstage because, you know, it was DWP people that run Sonic Temple, same people that run Inc. They hooked us up with like, they called them badass passes. Basically, they were like, we can go wherever we want. Yeah. It was pretty cool. So we're backstage just hanging out in the media area most of the time. I'm walking back there. That day I decided to just wear my Dimebag shirt. I'm going to wear my Dimebag shirt today. So I see this guy, and I remember him, he's wearing a red Anthrax shirt, and he says, hey man, nice shirt. And I was like, oh, thanks. And he was like, there's Rita. And I was like, and I stopped and I go, what? And he goes, there's Rita over there. And I was like, I kind of peeked over and I'm just like, holy shit. And I was like, well, hey, Rita. And she was like, hey. So she's Southern Texas. Hey, sweetheart. You know, I was like, hey, how you doing? I shook her hand and I'm just like, oh, I didn't know you were here. She's like, yeah, we're at the Dime Hardware booth. We're doing shots of black. I mean, it's just like a Pantera video. We're doing shots of Black Tooth. Come out and see us. I'm like, okay. Can I get a photo? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, you know, and I get a picture with her and I'm like, I'm going to hug you.
Just doing it.
And she was like, okay. And then she gave me a hug and everything. And I was just like, just letting you know. Because I was trying to be cool because, again, we were in the city where he was murdered. And it was like, you know, I was just like, so I'm trying to be as cool as I can. I'm like, how the hell did that just happen? You know what I mean? So that's kind of was the same thing with you. I was just like, oh my God, this just happened. Ashleigh, bring it in.
Bring it in. Yeah. Got a hug now.
Yeah.
Well, and it was funny because the timing on that kind of thing for us is always a little up in the air. You know, we know they're coming. We kind of have an arrival window, but we're not sure when their crew's going to bring them around, when the little golf cart's coming. Yeah. We're just kind of waiting around. I am literally sitting on the picnic table out back, inhaling a corn dog when Corey Taylor's and his crew come rolling up, and I'm like, "Whoop! Throw the corn dog in the trash. Go in. Time to do business."
Right. Well, and then that same girl, Talina, who gave me, who got Phil to come in the haunt, she gave me side stage passes because usually the headline bands is like nobody up there. So she was like, "Here, take a couple side stage." I was just like, "Are you sure? I don't want to." No, here. You know, so I was just like, "Thanks." Yeah. So I got to watch Pantera side stage. You know, so that was it. The whole weekend was just like. You know, I was glowing the whole time. It
was perfect.
Yeah. And I hope we get to keep doing that kind of stuff because it's just, you know, it doesn't hurt. That's for sure. We could keep promoting at Incarceration, and I think it helps our season. It'll definitely help, you know, this other tour. That would have been good information to have, too. It's like, hey, we're also doing a Beyond the Scare tour, so come and check it out with the lights on. Because a lot of the times it just... You don't want to turn the lights off because it looks so good.
Yeah, and honestly, I know that not everyone on my tour team agrees with my willingness to fly by the seat of my pants, but we are kind of doing this program with short notice. We know our gigs. You know your haunt. I know my Beyond the Bars tour. We're going to put together a killer script.
It's going to be great.
But my tour guides are going... We're just going to start doing it for people. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be perfect. You're going to give it to me and each other leading up. It'll be great. Yeah. So I'm ready with this. I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants. It's going to be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And announcement time would have been great, but it's okay that we don't have it.
Yeah. Nah, we'll be fine. I think it's going to, I mean, the closer we get to Halloween, I think the more it's going to be, you know, a little more prevalent with your ticket sales and everything else. So it'll be fine. I'm looking forward to it. Where do they get the tickets for it?
So if you go to ohiostatereformatory.org, we have red buy tickets button in the upper right-hand corner. And so you can just click on that, and there's a little photo of all of our tours. Just click on the Beyond the Scare photo.
Right on. There we go. So that's how you get the tickets, and let us know what you think. I am really excited for this one. I can't wait to get with you and like walk the route and you know, talk a little bit more about it so we can get in the bones of everything. But thanks for coming on, Ashleigh. I loved having you on here. We got to do this again. I say that to everybody, but I mean it this time.
Thank you. Gladly. Anytime.
Yeah. And you're right here in the building. And I think that went pretty good. So you're definitely a better guest than Paul and Dan.
Oh, no. Their feelings are going to be hurt now.
They don't have feelings. What are you talking about?
Well, I know Dan does.
Yeah. Nah, he might have one. Yeah. I've been on trips with Dan. I'll tell you what, that's a different story when you get him out of Ohio.
See, he had to go on this whole span where he's like no drinking, health-wise, behaving himself, totally chill. And so I missed the Wild Dan era. I just missed all of it.
Well, he's a big Limp Bizkit fan.
Really?
Yeah. You got to ask him about that.
Okay.
Thanks for coming on, Ashleigh. And once we get into the tour, maybe we'll circle back around and talk about maybe after season how it went.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
All right. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Bye.